Okay, it's 6 o'clock. Are we all set there? Yeah. Call the meeting to order pursuant to Governor Healy's March 28th, 2025 revised order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. Chapter 30A, Section 18, extending remote participation through June 30th, 2027. Meetings of the Berkshire Hills Regional School District School Committee will be conducted both in person and remote. Agenda items listed are those reasonably anticipated by the chair. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed. Items not listed may be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. This meeting is being recorded by CTSB, Berkshire Edge, and the school committee recorder. We will take a roll call since there's one member who is remote. Sarah Tonetti? Yes. Allison?
Yes.
Jason?
Here.
Andy?
Present.
Bill?
Here.
Diane? Is she on?
Let's see.
Okay. Sarah?
Here.
Rich?
Present.
And Steve Bannon, present. We have the minutes of February 12th, 2026. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Seconded.
I have a motion from Andy, a second from Bill. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call. Sarah?
Yes.
Allison?
Yes.
Jason?
Aye.
Andy?
Aye.
Bill?
Yes.
Sarah?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
And I, it's unanimous. We will now open the public hearing for the FY 27 budget. Anyone who will want to speak will come to the microphone located to my left. They have up to 3 minutes to speak.
Did you want me to do this slide thing first or?
Yes, but we'll open the public hearing. I'm happy to do
Okay.
that. Yeah. So do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Andy, a second by Rich. A roll call. Sarah?
Yes.
Allison?
Yes.
Jason?
Aye.
Andy?
Aye.
Bill?
Yes.
Sarah?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
And I. And we'll start off with a brief presentation.
Okay, so I know people are joining the budget process at different points. So what I did is I pulled together some slides from our previous presentation and shortened them a little bit. I think actually what I should do is I should also plug in my laptop so people can see it in the audience at the same time it's going. Oh, no, you are seeing it. So. Okay, so I'm not gonna plug no. So let me run through these slides quickly. For those of you who've been part of this process, you know them. For those of you who haven't, it'll give you a little bit of context. When we talk about our budget, we always talk about the first three things, and in the tough years, we also talk about the fourth thing. We really want to provide high quality education for all our students. We want to continue to provide a wide range of social emotional supports, and we want to ensure equitable access for all students. In the years when we've had reductions, we'd like to try to limit the impact on learning, students, and staff. I wanted to share some of what we've done in the last several years to give a little context. Last year, we eliminated 9 positions, 6 teachers and 3 administrators. The year before, 4.5 positions, and sorry for the typo there, that should be 3.5 and 1. Fiscal year 24, none. And fiscal year 23, we didn't eliminate positions, but we did something which was sort of unusual. We returned $601,165 to the towns. I think that just only happened once since I've been here. We have a difficult and impactful budget situation. We think the overall increase is well managed. We think the impact on students and staff is limited. And reductions are supported by restructuring unfilled positions and a few retirements. There are no anticipated RIFs of teachers. There is some impact on paraprofessionals, but many of those are moving around or potentially connected to retirements. The changes we're recommending at each of the buildings is to reduce first and second grades from 4 sections to 3 each. Class size in some places is 13 or even 14, and we anticipate class size would go up to 17 or 18 at the most. In eliminating those 2 positions, we'd like to add or swap out a literacy coach to assist with the implementation and support of the new ELA curriculum. That person would work from the earliest grades through 2nd grade. That person would not work primarily with 3rd and 4th grade. And it's my recommendation to put back $25,000 in stipends that we eliminated a year ago in both the elementary and middle school. And that's around teacher leadership and instructional change. In the middle school, we're recommending reducing a paraprofessional position 1 and also returning the stipends. And at the high school, we anticipate reducing 6 paraprofessional positions. Some of that's tied to needs, some of it's tied to the English language learner program. Some of it's tied to the likelihood that a current para may step into a teaching role connected to retirement. The proposed budget, so the 2 things that I'd like to look at is, first one, the highest number on the right, the 4.37, that's our gross operating budget increase. To cut to the point, I think that's really remarkable in the context of all our other increases. And then the next one is the 5.26%. On the bottom, you see the net assessment to the member towns, and that's 7.81%. The next slide talks about what's driving the increases, and there are other things behind this, but this is really like 94% of the increases. It's tied to salaries, it's tied to benefits, largely health insurance, and it's tied to educational services and tuition, primarily out-of-school special ed placements. This is another way of showing it. The big green part of the pie are salary and benefits. The next largest are transportation, then tuition and other student services, and all the others are relatively small. You'll see the light blue slice that's professional development. That's what's part of our district budget for professional development. But as you know, we spend a lot of time and have been successful at writing and winning grants. So professional development exists outside of our budget through many of those grants. So the change in the operating budget is 4.37%. The net operating budget is 5.03%. The impact to the 3 towns is here. The dollar amounts for each of the towns, as well as the percentage increase. The one that looks the scariest is West Stockbridge, because it's a 12.16% increase. This is due to like minor fluctuations in enrollment, which drive the formula. In previous years, West Stockbridge has been significantly lower, or in some years even negative. And when I talk with the West Stockbridge Select Board next week, I'll share the granular detail on that. But the percentages go up and down a little sporadically, in part because we don't use a 5-year rolling average. And that's really it for me, but I thought that set the stage for some of the comments.
So what we'll do is we'll take public comment both online and in person. The plan tonight is, once the public hearing is closed, for the school committee to start discussion. We could vote tonight. We have another meeting scheduled next week, so we'll see where we go. So what I usually do is take turns. If someone wants to speak, go to the microphone or raise your hand if you're online. Just state your name and address for the record, please.
Hello, I'm Steve Saltman, 1 Doug Way in West Stockbridge. It's a public hearing. Can I ask questions or is it just statement?
It's a statement. You can ask and we'll try to answer, but
Oh. It's a large budget to go through in 48 hours, but I got a copy from my town administrator. I was surprised going through it that on the staff salary increases, assuming most of them by contract, that on the line items, I see things at 8. There's not a standard. I'm expecting a standard for increases. I see things at 8, 11, 22, and even a 54% on a line item basis. Which I was surprised by. That was some of the reductions, especially in reducing teachers, that you're not seeing a reduction in salaries versus an increase still. Also, I was also surprised by the amount of money being spent on your tuition and special education services. It's going up over $500,000. And it seems a lot of that is in private and other school systems, which I don't understand the need for that. Those are my comments.
okay. If you want to just.
I think those are, I'm usually against answering questions. I think those are both questions that are worthy of answering.
Yeah, I agree.
So let me start with the salary increases and what those could mean. We could look with you or with anybody at each individual line. Teachers typically go or their salaries increase for 2 reasons on the salary schedule. One is time in the district, so there's a step schedule that goes down. And that has in our current schedule letters. And the letters don't exactly correspond with years, but they sort of roughly correspond with years. So somebody starts at A and works their way down, maybe ends the last number in some columns. It's a little different in others. The other way that teachers advance is there are multiple columns. The first column is a bachelor's column, and the last column is effectively a certificate of advanced graduate study or a doctorate. So somebody's salary might increase by 2 or 3% because they're moving down one, but then it could increase another 4% because they're moving a column over. In the ones where like nobody's getting a 52% raise in the district, right? I wish we could give people 52% raises. In those, that's probably aligned with like 3 teachers already in the line, and then we added a half position on that line, or maybe there are 6 teachers on that line and we added a 7th teacher. Okay.
So the lines aren't a single teacher. It's like, you can tell the kind of group, like it'll say like science high school. So that's all the science high school teachers. So whatever the makeup of that group was, that's why you're not seeing a standardized.
Yeah, because there was no changes in staffing in here that you presented there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the first part, the salary increases. The second part is the special education tuition, and you picked up on something that I mentioned. Our out-of-district special ed tuition placements, and those are for kids with really unique needs, have those needs met in a way that we're not able to do. Then they go to highly specialized programs. So there's some programs in state, there's some programs out of state, and those schools negotiate separately with the state what their tuition rate is, and they're just seeing exponential growth in their tuition rates. In as many cases as possible, and Kate, our Director of Student Services, has done a really nice job on this. We've kept kids in district, right? When we can keep kids in district, it's really good. It's good for the kids, it's good for the families, and often it's less expensive. But if somebody has a really specialized condition, like they're visually impaired, they do better going to a highly specialized school that works with students that are visually impaired.
Can I ask?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Just from my understanding that, is it, what is the requirement from the state for educating or providing for those students? Yeah, it just seems like, awfully high expense. I see someplace in some of the specialized, even in the school, it's 20% of that school's budget.
Yes, yeah. And I can speak to it. It may make sense for Kate to speak to it too. It's governed by both federal and state law, and our obligation is to meet the needs of the student, right? So, a typical student, we might spend $30,000 a year on. A student with multiple special needs and a highly specialized program, or even a residential program, might be several $100,000 a year. And it's our legal and financial obligation. And many of us would also argue it's our moral obligation to meet the needs of students. We have done a really nice job of creating more and more programming. So we're sending fewer students out, but we still have some students that do better in a highly specialized program. Kate, is there anything?
Just, can I just,
Yeah.
could you speak to the circuit breaker and the state, the politics around the state? There is a circuit breaker.
So, and this one, Kate, actually, thank you, Andy, for bringing it up. And just fill in the spots that I might miss. The circuit breaker is a mechanism where if a district has a very high expense after the first $100,000.
About 52,000.
Okay, so you can talk, but after the first amount, then we can petition and apply for reimbursement of the costs that exceed that amount. And what we get on that can vary year to year. Do you want to add?
It's typically about 75% of the costs that are above that threshold amount. So the threshold amount goes up every year by percentage increase, but it's about 53,000.
And when we,
But just to be clear, we're budgeting to the full amount.
yeah, and when do we receive that?
So
receive
we're,
that-
we budget to the full amount, but we may get some back in circuit breaker, but we have to budget to the full amount. We can't.
So we budget
Yeah.
to that amount, and what we try to do is take the money that we apply for, it's a reimbursement formula. So every year we apply for all the students that we've spent above that threshold amount, and we receive money back from the state over the course of the next fiscal year.
Or would I see that in the budget?
Circuit breaker income.
Yeah, it would be with the circuit breaker income.
But like what you're gonna see in that is what we received this past year. Yeah,
Okay, do you have any other questions?
And I mean, thank you for reading it. It's a 484-page budget book, so you did your homework.
I think just the other one is just surprising or unsustainable also is that when you look at the number of choice and tuition students that make up 26% of the student population, but the revenues from those sources are only 5%. And so I don't know that, we can't change that, but I don't know if the state can help change that with it
because otherwise the three towns are covering unsustainable portion for students not in our towns.
Yeah, no, I mean, thanks for bringing it up. I talk about this every year. The tuition agreements we negotiate with the adjoining towns, so those have gone up pretty significantly year over year. It's still 12,000 and change, right? But where it started was, I think when I got here, it was half that, so it was around $6,000. So
We're spending 40,000 a student.
less than that, but it's not covering the full cost. The other thing I often share, and people debate me on this, is the empty seats on an airplane metaphor, and this connects to some of the other things we talked about.
That's not-
If
but that's kind of, you can't use that when it's 20%, 26%.
So let's not have a debate here.
Yeah.
He's gonna give you an answer, or else we'll just stop the questions.
If we look at it really carefully, grade by grade, we try really hard to never have choice students push us over the edge to hire an additional teacher. And in almost all grades, we're able to do that. Every once in a while, we get it off a little bit. But it's something that we monitor and keep an eye on. The other thing that we're working on is as we expand our vocational programs, now we've got 3 full Chapter 74 approved ones, and with the new high school, we're opening a 4th in electricity. If students apply to those programs, we're able to charge them tuition at close to $25,000. So kids who are coming into automotive, horticulture, and early childhood education who aren't from our 3 towns, nor are part of the Richmond, Otis, and Sandusfield tuition agreements can be charged, or really their sending towns can be charged that higher rate. We're just building that out now. Over time, that may be quite significant.
Thank you.
Sure.
John, do you want to speak?
Yeah, but,
You can speak from
You
there.
can speak, you're close enough to this.
Yeah,
You'll be
you're fine,
heard.
John.
if that's the same thing we have in town hall, it's got terrible acoustics.
Ours has really good acoustics.
What? Yours is better.
You want,
It's fine.
you'll be heard here.
Before I go anywhere,
Yeah,
I haven't been to many of these school budget hearings during my 30 years in Great Barrington. And so I need to know, I don't want any surprises about procedures and rules of order here.
So this is a public hearing. What I announced before, and you have 3 minutes to speak. We've had many meetings before this where questions could be asked. And so what we're really looking for now is comments on the budget.
That's going to be impossible, Steve, but
There's nothing impossible, John. It's the rules that we set. I'm not here to debate them.
you're saying I have only 3 minutes at this hearing to ask questions of.
This isn't really the time to ask questions. This is the public hearing to give comments. The time to ask questions are previous meetings.
That's frustrating. It does not feel like an open process.
It's been an open process. We started in August.
I used to say that when I served on the Great Barrington Finance Committee, and people would come in at the hearing. And I would say to them, when I was sitting on the other side of the table you're on, you should have come here while we were having meetings during budget writing period, which in Great Barrington, as you well know, is January, February, March.
Correct.
And people showed up only at the public hearing. But
we frequently make changes to the budget based on comments people make at public hearing. It is the #1 data point that has been used to craft the budget since I've been here. Comments that people make at the public hearing. We want to hear what the public has to say about our budget.
yeah, but I have a lot to say related to about 8 questions that I've typed out today after a thorough study of 300 of the 444 pages of this budget.
But John, this is not conducive to have anyone who wants to show up, ask 45 minutes worth of questions. This is not,
45 minutes.
well, it
Steve.
will take that long for long, detailed questions. We're not doing that, so.
I've actually intended to send these by email to your business manager, Kirsten.
Right there, and that would have been the correct way of doing it. You're right.
Well, all right. I've got 10 copies here.
That's
You can
terrific.
You can take them home for homework, okay?
That's terrific.
I want to keep one for myself And two of you are gonna have to double up,
We'll make copies.
Yeah.
just like in high school.
Yes, we'll make copies.
And that'll be part of the record of the public hearing. 100%.
So here,
Andy, just go.
here's a former teacher, I can get it, he knows how to pass out papers.
And I remember take one and pass it down.
Okay, so I don't think I made any comment yet, I was just asking,
No, I haven't started.
so let me go to the microphone and do this,
You'll be here just as well here. It's up to you, wherever your choice.
okay? So an overall comment is that this budget is at least as complicated as the budget for the town of Great Barrington, maybe more so. Certainly, Peter Dillon has more employees than our town manager does, and he's got a bigger budget. If there's one comment I want to use for this brief comment time, it's questions about liability and liability insurance. As some of you, maybe most of you know, there was a big to-do here in this school on December 8th, 2023, in the so-called genderqueer book incident. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
John.
And Peter Dillon, along with two police officers for the town of Great Barrington, was sued by the teacher whose room was invaded that day. Peter has been left off the hook by federal judge Mastroianni in October. But between May of 2014 and that decision of the judge in October, during those 18 months, there was an awful lot of legal motions being traded back and forth. I don't know what the rules are for the school committee's legal representation of an employee like Peter. I did have researched the one for the town. And the town tells me, the town employees tell me that legal expenses in defense of an employee's actions in the course of their employment are covered by the town's liability insurance. I'm guessing that that's parallel for the school committee, but I don't have documentation of that.
Yes,
So
I don't think I can.
I think it's important
Yeah.
for transparency and public information to know both for the town of Great Barrington, which I know is not your purview here tonight, and the school committee, how much these legal fees have cost. Now, they're not transparent on the town level because the answer I got from the town meeting floor in May in Great Barrington was that it's wrapped into the liability insurance premium. So I do have a list of questions. I'd like to ask Kristen to research them for me. About what is the true cost of a civil lawsuit in a federal court to the school district? I think that is of interest to taxpayers, and I think we need an answer more than just what I'm getting from the town so far, which is, yeah, the town has a $7,500 deductible. Okay, but what are the costs beyond that? There are costs to society. And this question, I feel, is very congruent with the mission statement of the school district, which is we want to teach our students to be inquisitive, active citizens. I'm 78 years old. I was inquisitive when I was in high school, and I haven't given up the habit, okay?
Good for you.
Yeah, well,
So John, I look at these, and even if we were going to answer these, we couldn't answer these tonight anyways, because a lot of these take some research. They're
yeah,
not questions about this year's budget.
okay,
Kristen will provide you with the answers.
okay,
So it's not a matter, it's just because it's a public hearing. Some of these take some research.
yeah, okay, well, you know, I
Yeah.
thought it was better to bring them than not to.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Thank you, John. Appreciate it. I got
Who's Carrie Ann?
Yeah. Carrie Manzolini, go ahead, unmute yourself to state your name and address.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Name and address for the record, please.
Carrie Manzolini, 158 Brickyard Road, New Lebanon, New York. I'm a fourth grade teacher in Muddy Brook Elementary School. I've been for 15 years. I would like to speak tonight because I feel like we're at a crossroads again for the third year in a row. And I want to talk about the proposal to cut 2 elementary sections and how that may appear to be fiscally necessary, but in practice, it's going to be a high-risk gamble with the children's foundational years. And I know we aren't seeing a spike in enrollment today, but looking to the future, we very well could see a spike. With new housing developments, with school choice, our population is positioned for growth. Cutting sections now is a reactive move that leaves us with no flex in our system. If even a handful of new families move in mid-year, we won't just have full classrooms, we will have overcrowding. We must also look beyond the raw numbers to the complexity of the modern classroom. Our current student body has high needs population grappling with significant social emotional behaviors. And the research shows, especially from Project STAR, that small class sizes will reduce disruptive behavior. We can't afford any more disruptive behavior. In a smaller setting, a teacher can de-escalate a student in seconds through a quiet one-on-one connection. In a crowded room, the same student struggles and can derail an hour of instruction. By cutting 2 sections at the elementary level, you are effectively choosing crowd control over education. In addition, cutting those 2 sections would be asking educators to do the impossible, increasing workload and leading to a direct path of teacher burnout. Students, teachers, emotional exhaustion leads to lower quality instruction. It leads to increased absenteeism and high turnover rate. In a competitive market, we can't afford to lose our best educators to neighboring districts. And finally, looking at some more research in the American Journal of Education, this highlights that smaller class sizes are the single most effective tool for closing the achievement gap. When a teacher is responsible for too many students, the child who is quietly struggling, the one who isn't decoding a sentence or mastering a math concept, they basically become invisible. Teachers lose that precious one-on-one time to deliver early intervention. And this is going to lead to more expensive services needed later. Cutting these sections might balance your line item tonight, but I can assure you that it will increase the budget tomorrow by requiring our district to have more behavioral support, remediation, perhaps staff turnover will be affected, and it will, most importantly, it will diminish student outcomes. The teachers at Muddy Brook, I think I speak for most of them, urge you to preserve these two sections. We want to keep our classes small enough so every student is seen and every teacher is supported. Thank you.
Anyone else? Go up
Can I go to
the
the
mic.
mic or can I just enunciate?
You gotta be close enough here.
I just wanted to
I know you speak loud.
Sorry.
Just come a little closer and state your name and address. Just
John
for the-
Perletti, 259 Aberdeen Lane, New Marlboro, Mass. I just kind of wanted to follow up with what Carrie said on the record. What are the numbers that we would shift to if we were losing classes, if we were losing sections? And how do those numbers reflect in the district's commitment to keep class sizes small? So what would the numbers?
So the current class size is 13 to 14, and we think we land at 17 or perhaps 18. So one of the distinctions, like everybody's for small class size, right? I'm for small class size. The debate is what is small, and researchers say 18 or fewer is small. So we're moving from the middle to low end of small to the upper end of small, but it's still small, and teachers in many other districts would be jumping for joy to have class size of 18. And not that it's a model, but at one point in my career, I worked with class sizes of 34 that was contractually capped. And in another point, when I was a principal, I tried to keep classes between 18 and 25.
Right. I think it's also important to point out that kindergarten has full-time paraprofessionals in our district. The first grade classes don't. While they do get support, it does make that a bit of a heavier lift. I know I sound biased because I happen to know somebody in the first grade as a teacher. And I'm not just speaking on behalf of her, I'm speaking on behalf of all the teachers. I think it's important because I also teach at the high school, and the classes that I teach are in child development, and the recognition that the research does indicate that really the critical time for education is in the early years, and the best thing we can do to support children at the various early points of their lives pays off in dividends over the course of a student's lifetime in the district.
Thanks. Anyone else? Yeah, coming on up.
I don't carry as well as Jack does, so I will. Glenn Chamberlain, I live in New Marlboro, out of the district, but I've been a first grade teacher and now a second grade teacher at Berkshire Hills for a long time. And before that, I've worked as a third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade teacher, so I feel like I know the elementary landscape pretty well, and I feel like in my experience, the move from K to 1 is the most significant transition kids make. And I also understand these are very small class sizes now, and I totally appreciate the decisions that you, as a board and as a superintendent, are and forced to make here. I guess my ask is probably unrealistic to ask to reconsider cutting the first grade position based on what I know into first grade students really need. But I'm wondering if there's some other way to support that transition. A couple of years ago, there was a facilitator position put in, ended up shifting because of budget cuts the following year. But that might be something to consider specifically. It's a paraprofessional position that supports directly in classrooms some of what Harry was talking about, the needs when and also Jack, when you go from two teacher figures in a classroom to 1 plus some support, it might be a reasonable consideration to think of another layer of support if it can't be just putting the first grade back, which would be ideal.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Anyone else? Seeing no one else or anyone online, motion to close the public hearing.
So move.
A second. Roll call, Sarah,
Yes.
Allison,
yes,
Jason,
Aye.
Andy. Aye. Bill,
Yes.
Diane is here. Diane,
Yeah.
Sarah,
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
and I, it's unanimous. So the public hearing is closed. So as I said before, we have a few choices. We'll start the discussion tonight. We may finish it tonight, or we may continue it into next week. But we can vote anytime we'd like to once. And one of the things we can do is ask for more information to be brought back from the administration. So who would like to start?
Can I just say one thing? At our last meeting, I think I'd asked, and maybe the committee asked for Cynthia to come back and share some additional detail. She has a little thing she'd like to share if people are amenable to that.
Right there, Sean.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
okay, thank you. So I thank you for letting me have an opportunity to talk about why I think having an early educational coach is very important to our, to the success of our teachers and our students and our families. In December, I attended an early learning network that was run by DESE. And this was after my initial budget that I had proposed, but at that meeting, I began to unpack the importance of having a cohesive, connected early childhood experience for students, for families, and for educators. An early childhood coach will provide ongoing job embedded support that strengthens instruction for the practitioner. It improves classroom environments, and it ensures that the new curricula is consistently implemented. It'll provide students with a cohesive experience from pre-K through grade 2, and it brings families on board early in the process and keeps them engaged and active in their students' learning, which research has shown is critical to student success. With a reduction in class sizes, in classes in grade 1 and 2, the proactive approach is especially important to support students, families, and teachers. Allocating funds for an early childhood coach is a strategic investment for our students, our educators, and our families, setting a strong foundation for their long-term achievement. The clear outcomes that I would expect to see, and research says, when you have a coach is instructional practices increase and student academic also increases. And student academic increases incrementally. The first year, it's a smaller increment, and over time, that increment grows. Originally, this request was made for pre-K through K. But after learning that we were going to reduce my classes in both first and second grade, my staff encouraged me to include grade 1 and grade 2 as part of the coaching experience. And after looking into early childhood research around the effectiveness of coaching, I agree that having an early childhood coach that was able to effectively work with my pre-K through second grade on all the early childhood skills, both academic and social emotional, will definitely help increase student outcomes and teaching in my classrooms.
Who wants to start the discussion?
I have a procedural comment
Yeah, of course.
about the teacher, and I Cynthia kind of addressed it, how this came to be late in the game, which is not great. I mean, this is a dramatic change. It's a new position. The fact that we're cutting other positions bears no weight on that whatsoever. And this should have been addressed way earlier in the budget process to give us more thought. We did have what I thought was a great conversation in the finance committee, but that's not fair to the rest of the school committee that hasn't heard a lot. And I think that's why you came forward tonight with those comments to kind of fill in some of that gap. But like, this is like what we're not supposed to be doing is on the fly additions, or we're forced to do on the fly subtractions in the budget system. We shouldn't be doing them at this stage in the game. But I just had to get that rant over with. I am a little concerned about the way it's budgeted in the budget because we have an instructional coach position. It's line item 235. But this new position doesn't seem to be embedded in there. It seems to still be embedded in the grade 1. So maybe at some point before we move on the budget, even if it's no net change, I do want to see that accounted for differently, to make sure this is clear how this is going to go forward. But I'll save that motion for if we actually get the motions at some point. But that's my procedural point.
Other thoughts, discussion? I mean, I've been very clear. If no one else wants to speak out, I'll be clear. I agree with Rich on the first part. I don't like late additions, no matter how well intended they are. I also have concerns about cutting 2 classes in the elementary school. I think it's a little risky because we're gonna bump up against 18. And if we get a few more students, we may have to reverse that anyways, in-district students, that is. Also have concerns about whether there are other places in the budget that we can cut. You know, I understand where the 4% was a fairly good number considering insurance and considering the way everything's gone up. But unfortunately, the way it comes out to the 3 towns, it's still rather high. So, and I'm not sure. I think one of the decisions we have to make is we're talking about cutting 2 teaching positions and then adding a coach. So in essence, we're cutting 1 position. And whether that has an effect on the budget that is anything but minute. So I just think we have a lot to think about here. And we're looking at the elementary school, but I think we really have to think about what we can do to help our students, but still help the taxpayers. And I'm not sure we've accomplished that.
Did you see that slide with the 3 years, 4 years of cuts we've been making?
Yeah. And unfortunately, the problem is I'm not saying we've done anything wrong.
Yeah.
The problem is
How much more can we
insurance.
cut?
Yeah, insurance keeps going up. And that's the biggest driver because the number of employees we have. It
Yeah.
only went up, and whoever thought would say only for 8 point something%. It didn't go up 15, but yeah, no, I'm not saying we've done anything wrong. I just think that there's outside forces.
It's interesting to hear you speak, Steve, because you shifted it a little bit further than anything that we've talked about in terms of restoring the sections. And then looking somewhere else in the budget for cuts. Because I would be happy to restore the sections. However, the literacy coach, I think that position is important if we were to reconfigure. And I went and looked at, I spent the last couple of weeks, like looking at the research, because one thing that I kept hearing throughout all of our discussions was the research says, and I'm sorry, I'm an archivist by trade. I don't, research says means nothing to me. So I went and looked at some of the research, and the research is there and it's valid that that the model that Cynthia is talking about actually does, and I have a little annotated bibliography if anybody really wants to dive in. But the research actually does support better outcomes. And then also in terms of the class size issue, Peter's right. I mean, all the research around class size is essentially based on 12 to 17 being the low end and 22 to 26. That's the STAR project out of Tennessee. And that is the gold standard for class size research. Sorry, I'm an old man. I just babble about it. But the bottom line is I would be happy to restore. I don't know where else you're going to squeeze, any more juice out of the lemon.
There may be no one.
And if there isn't, I would be happy to see a new budget next week that restores those positions and let's roll with it.
If it's a will of the committee, you could do that tonight, but that's another story. Rich, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was, despite my earlier comments were just procedural. I support the hiring of the new coach. The hiring of the new coach is what's making me comfortable with the elimination of the sections. I view those as directly related. If we add back the sections, I will not support the coach anymore. I think they're mutually exclusive. So, and I take a different view of cutting a full-time teacher as inconsequential, from any standpoint, including a tax standpoint. I think it's very, consequential. But I also think a lot of focus is on cost and not on value. And what the school district is delivering is the best value for what they're getting. And could we cut a couple more nickels and dimes someplace? But the amount of value that would be reduced by doing that is not something that I think our communities want at all. I've motioned for many cuts on this committee and voted for many cuts. And I don't think there's a cut left in this budget that wouldn't have a disproportional effect on value at this point.
I think one of the things I would say, and I don't disagree with anything you say, is that I would have liked to see some data about, we already have a coaching position and how that's affected student outcome. That would have made it easier to accept this.
No, the rollout was awful. That was my whole speech earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Again, yeah.
Yeah. In fact, I will say, I've been part of all the conversations, the finance committee, the last school committee, and obviously you heard Cynthia's comments here tonight. I don't think any of the versions of this we heard 100% jive with the job description. I was happy to hear Cynthia specifically reference some measurables going forward, and it sounds like Andy's already up to speed on those too. If this instructional coach remains in the budget and is voted on, I think at our April 12th meeting, we're going to review the instructional coach question, and we're going to have a conversation about measurables on this position and the marrying that with measurables on the implementation of the new literacy program going forward. I think those are all conversations we got to have. And if the administration is going to wait till the budget to drop these on us, well, I don't think the committee should do that anymore. I think this April, we should start talking about what we expect to see for our dime out of these expenditures.
And I know I'm not supposed to say anything, but we would welcome that.
Okay.
Diane.
I always dislike this time of year, as we all do.
Yeah.
But what I do like about this time of year is hearing from the people who teach in the schools, not only from the principals, but from the teachers and from the people who see our students every day. Because I don't get to do that anymore. My kids are not in school. And I, at this time of year, always try to listen to the experts of the people who are the people teaching the students. And I consider them the experts in the same way that I consider myself an expert in what I do. And so I'm a little bit confused as to the difference between an instructional coach versus two teachers. What I hear the teachers saying is we would like to keep the two sections. And this is a very important time. And I think what we're doing is we're hearing from our professionals who we trust in taking care of our kids. And this, to me, is the whole charge of this committee, not only to save money, but we teach our students in the best way that we can. And this I consider, remembering my own kids at this age, the foundation of education. And I understand completely the needs that will arise if we don't address things early. And so what I'm hearing tonight is this is not a popular decision. And if there's a way to reinstate two teachers, that would be my choice. But I would also like to understand the difference between the instructional coach versus the two teachers. And is that a balance or is that a Band-Aid? And I'm not really sure I understand that.
Sure. Well,
Cynthia, do you want me to speak to it? Do you want to speak to it?
So, I mean, I'm just happy to say, I'm not sure that it's, in my mind at least, or in the researcher's mind, that it's one or the other. Small class sizes, as Peter's saying, are very important. But currently the class sizes are 12 and 13. And if we went to 3 sections, they would be 16 and 17. That's still considered a small class size. So it's hard to parse out, the research on that. Those are, and even here in Berkshire County, that can still be considered a 17 could still be considered a small class size. And on the same hand, it is very true that our students come from kindergarten, where there's a teacher and paraprofessional in every classroom, and they go to 1st grade and there is not that. There's a classroom teacher and there's a paraprofessional in that grade level that is shared amongst the teachers. And an instructional coach will support job embedded professional development and be able to connect with families. That is not the same role as what a classroom teacher could do. And I'm not sure I could weigh which one is more important than the other.
And isn't it, the literacy coach role is not just, it's professional development. It's, as you said, it is working with parents, making that connection, but it's also student-based, pupil-based as well.
Yes,
correct?
they also
So
will be
it's all
working,
three.
looking at student data, working with students. Yes.
a lot
Is that
of-
true? So working with students one-on-one, there'd be student facing to some degree.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I wanted to hear.
Yeah, and I mean, in some of the STAR project follow-on research over the last, STAR project, what, 25 years ago in Tennessee, some of that around small class size, a lot of the follow-on research also includes looking at literacy coaches within, or instructional coaches, if you will, within the smaller class size versus larger class size.
Yeah.
And the success of the cohorts going forward. So, I mean, there's definitely supporting literature to support that. I mean, even if you stay with four sections, the role would be great.
Yes.
I mean, it is a significant thing.
Yeah.
But is it what our students need? Are what you're saying is we need a teacher and a paraprofessional for each class if we're gonna have 17 kids, or we need the 3 sections because of the particular challenges of our students.
Well, so the impact of a coach, and can be that a coach can impact the teaching, and the teacher then can impact the students that are in front of them. And if a coach can impact let's say, 12, 16 of my teachers exponentially, right, were making more gains in reading and behavior than if I just had 2 teachers. But there's still an element of the fact that we are a public school and don't have a crystal ball about how many students will be registering in our school, and we are right at that line, right? And anything over 18 is no longer a small class size. So I definitely didn't answer your question. There's just more questions about it. I mean, there's a lot of components here, and I genuinely don't have an answer about which one is better.
What would your teachers say?
My teachers would say that having the more teachers is better. And there's also looking into the future, which is to say, how many students are going to be registering in kindergarten? Because we're just going to be back at this next year if we only have, if we get a large cohort of students in kindergarten, we're going to need to add a first grade teacher and a second grade teacher. And then are we going to reduce the number of third grade teachers, right? Reducing teachers has a long-term effect, certainly. Although I don't know that I can, say which one would be, more effective approach for keeping class sizes.
Do you view the instructional, whatever we're calling it, coach as a permanent position?
I would like that, yes.
Just one other thing I would add is if, I don't know, 8 more families moved in and they all were in first grade, and that happened in July or August, then we might come back to you and pivot with a plan B and say, we're really fired up about the coach. We really wanted to do it. The numbers shifted so dramatically that we'd like to reactivate the person we selected as a coach to be a classroom teacher and leave that possibility open. I think history's shown us that 8 kids or 8 families aren't going to move in. But that's something that's probably worth having in our back pocket.
I think it's happened like once over the years.
But to clarify one thing about shifting class, let's say reducing first and second this year, but having to reinstate it the year after. That's another year's budget, and we've done that many, many times. It's not about riffing anyone. It's about meeting the needs where they are. So we've had bubbles before, some of our own making and some because people moved in. And so you've gone from 2, maybe a first and second grade that's large, and then the next kindergarten is smaller. So all of a sudden the first grade, one of the teachers goes up to teach second or third grade, wherever the need is. So what I'm worried about is this year's budget and what we're going to approve, because you just have to shift. I'm not worried about riffing them. I'm just moving to where we need them.
Yeah. And I mean, and as the principal, it's, it's my job to advocate for what I think is best for students.
Yeah.
And genuinely, I think that,
Yeah.
If I didn't have to, talk money or a budget, I would say, small class sizes and a coach. I really do believe that job embedded professional development support, one-on-one support with students will impact not just my pre-K through 2, but would be beneficial all the way through. And there's even research that shows, sorry to say it, but the financial impact is also over time is significant for not having to pay for, extra special ed teachers or, I know.
Looks fair.
What's too small? Peter?
That's too small.
I mean, should we go for a 1 kid for 1 teacher? Is that a healthy social emotional learning environment for kids?
No,
No,
no.
no. I think at 13, we're getting close to too small, in my opinion.
I think we are too, and on any.
And I think you
given
do harm to a kid and if a couple kids drop out and we have a class of 11, I don't think that's a healthy environment for a kid to learn in. No.
And on any given day, if 1 kid's absent, then functionally it's even less.
Yeah. There's risks both ways.
And I don't know the exact answer, but I do know that, that both are impactful in the lives of our earliest learners.
The only other thing I'd like to mention is there are lots of circles around this, so there's the class size coach discussion, there are the interventionists and support people, they're the role of paraprofessionals, they're the mental health folks who provide support. In many ways, if one were to rate, are we supporting kids and grown-ups well? In many ways, we are, right? Our social worker ratio is, people are in envy of that, right? Our number of paraprofessionals, people are, wish they had that many paraprofessionals. The interventionists to do other stuff, the number of special ed staff. Kids continue to shift and change and evolve and have greater and lesser needs, but I still think we're very well poised to meet those needs.
What's the wish of the committee?
Well, I
I
mean-
just, I'll just say a
Yeah,
couple of
please.
things, as is my forte usually. I want to look at it in another way. I represent Great Barrington, and I'm looking at a 7.49 increase. And I asked at the finance committee meeting, this position is cost neutral. That's what I'm understanding. It doesn't have I'm talking about the early childhood coach. It was presented to us as cost neutral. Okay,
Just to say, it depends on your definition of cost neutral. If you didn't have that position and you eliminated two positions,
right.
first and
So-
second, it wouldn't be cost neutral, but it's your definition of cost neutral.
Okay. And I talked to a constituent the other day and we were talking about affordability, which seems to be a favorite word now. And I'm uneasy with 7.49% being assessed to Great Barrington. I know there's a lot of support. I'm just uneasy from my own position. I knew when I ran for this position that it wasn't just education I was representing. It was a taxpayer and it was people who we represent. I just heard maybe could we find other money in the budget that would equal what we're losing through the dropping of sections. And as I look through this line item budget, and I brought it up, a 1% decrease to Great Barrington, a 6.49% increase is $300,000. And I started looking through this budget line item and I talked with somebody about it and the most cuts that we came up with, including teachers, was 190,000. Well, that's not 300,000 and that doesn't drop the assessment. So I think if we ask, and I've been on the finance committee and, you know, if we ask Peter and Kristen and to come back and, you know, give us another budget that reflects a 1% increase, I don't know where the hell they're gonna find $300,000. So my position is, I like this early childhood coach. I agree. We should have some information on what we already are paying $109,000 for in regards to 7 through 12. I guess I have a question. Is this position gonna be is it a teacher salary?
The teachers.
It's okay.
Senior position.
I like the position. And I also see it, if we're gonna cut the sections, I see it as a way to help the sections that are left. I also see it, if we don't cut the sections, as an enhancement to what we presently have. And I would rather like to see the latter. I think the literacy coach and keeping the sections. But again, I'm caught with this figure of 7.49%. And I think that For some people, it's gonna come up at the town meeting, I'm sure. How much more can the town of Great Barrington, people on a fixed income, I'm very concerned that this 7.49, I would love to see if it could get below it, but again, you know, another 1% is $300,000 off it, all right, 0.5. Okay, I'm not a mathematician, but I would say that that's 150,000. Well, that's still a significant amount of money when you start looking at what 150,000 in this budget would equal. So,
And Bill, just to add a clarification, I think the $300,000 reduces the overall increase by 1%, but Great Barrington gets 74% of that, so.
okay,
To get Great Barrington at 6.49, I think we have to go more than 300,000.
okay.
Right.
That's correct.
If I could just point out
Sure.
one thing
Yeah.
from what I'm hearing here, and it doesn't necessarily, it's just a small caveat. We do appear, our names appear on 3 town ballots.
Mhm.
So I consider my constituency to be Great Barrington,
Mhm.
West Stockbridge, and Stockbridge. I happen to live in West Stockbridge. And according to the school committee agreement between the 3 towns, that provides for diversity within the district. But we represent all 3 towns.
Yeah. Okay,
Just had to say that,
yeah,
sorry.
thank you.
Yeah, no, you're right, you're right.
As long as I've been here, we've never taken a vote by town, so I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, no,
And I don't think that was Bill's intention.
Yeah.
I'm just
yeah,
clarifying.
Yeah, I mean,
Thank
but
you.
yeah, I mean, I think all of us are concerned about
Yeah.
the impact of
Yeah.
this particular budget, the way the numbers came out is on Great Barrington. It's a little more harsh, you know, in a
Well,
gross
we
number.
have every year.
I know,
It
no.
doesn't change.
No,
It
No.
won't.
I will say, I don't want to say it.
well,
I have concern about the percentage amount, but there seems to be, we seems to have entered a renaissance era in Great Barrington in terms of understanding and clarity of how education works, how it's funded. And I view, and I think a caveat of that is that we have this budget year, we have a much clearer, the public appears to me to be, from the lack of emails in my inbox and the lack of phone calls, I get to really understanding the realities of this. I mean, I don't want to like start debating it, but we have an 8% increase in our insurance,
Right.
compulsory. Nobody chose that. We can't get it. We're contractually obligated to pay that. And we had a $500,000 increase in our special needs budget, which you're legally obligated to pay.
Yep.
No options. That's it.
And the insurance is
Boom.
year to year.
That's why we're here.
Year to
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
We see that every year. And this is low.
And
Yeah.
let's not leave out the fact that our goal has always been to pay teachers in the top 25%, teachers and all staff in the top 25% of Berkshire County. And I've yet to hear many people tell us we're wrong at that, because we
Oh,
want
it's-
the most quality staff we can get.
Community totally supports it.
Yep.
Totally supports it.
We'll try some,
Do you want me to do my
whatever you want to do.
Yeah, so I'm gonna make a motion to transfer $90,000 from line item 100, which is the grade 1 teacher line item, to line item 235, which is the instructional coach line item. And as I say, the current budget, well, that's my motion.
Good, let's get a second, then I'll
I'll
Rich explain
second.
it.
Yeah.
I have a motion by Rich, second by Andy. You should explain it.
So this is just papering over what's been presented by the administration, because right now, our budget line item number 100 contemplates 4 first grade teachers, and line item 235 constitutes 1 instructional coach who we've had for years, who works at the high school. So and the budget, the grade 2 budget reflects 3 sections. The grade 1 budget still reflects 4. If this is what we're doing, then I think it needs to be transparent and accurate in the budget. So this is just papering over what has been proposed.
Clean up on aisle 5.
Yes.
Any question? Let's start a roll call on that. Sarah,
Yes.
Allison,
yes,
Jason,
Aye.
Andy,
Aye.
Bill,
yes,
Diane.
Yes.
Sarah,
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
and I, it's unanimous.
Now, that also makes it clean if somebody wants to add something back to the grade 1 or grade 2, or somebody wants to cut from the instructional coach.
Other discussion? Not hearing enough discussion tonight to say, it's 7:15, let's just move on to next week. It's the school committee's choice, but I think we're pretty close.
I'll make a motion to approve the budget as presented.
Can I, you want to withdraw your motion and
I'll withdraw.
I'll do the,
Okay.
I move to approve a fiscal year 27 gross operating budget of $38,828,181, which results in a net operating budget of $36,842,553 after use of school choice and tuition funds, with a total net operating assessment to the member towns of $32,060,235.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. And just procedurally, there's a hand up. Public hearing is closed and this is time for discussion among the school committee and staff. Discussion on the motion Rich just made and Andy seconded. Not hearing any.
So we're voting on a motion that will include the instructional coach
And 3 sections in
and the
first and
three,
second.
the suggestion of 3 sections for first and second grade.
Correct.
Okay.
Roll call, Sarah. Allison.
yes,
Jason.
Aye.
Andy.
Aye.
Bill.
Yes.
Diane.
Yeah.
Sarah.
Aye.
Rich.
Aye.
And I, it's unanimous.
I move to approve the fiscal year 26 capital budget of $117,713 with a total net capital assessment to the member towns of $117,713.
Second.
Discussion.
Just so everyone knows, this is just the debt service on
Debt service on the school.
yeah, from the design of the high school.
Roll call, Sarah.
Yes.
Allison.
yes,
Aye.
Andy.
Aye.
Bill.
Yes.
Diane.
Yeah.
Sarah.
Aye.
Rich.
Aye.
And aye, it's unanimous. That concludes the budget portion of this meeting. We have a couple other things to do. And then once Peter and I and Rich talk, we probably will not have another meeting unless there's something necessary until the end of March. So you probably have a little time off, but we'll let you know for sure in the public now. So, Peter, just the few things that you have to do under superintendents.
Yeah, so just first of all, thanks everybody for their thoughtfulness around this. Hard. Okay. On the grant approval donations, the Southern Berkshire Rural Health Network via the Southern Berkshire Community Care Program would like to sponsor a pottery program at Clio for spring 2026. They had available funds and it's a $3,000 donations should you choose to accept it.
Make a motion to approve.
Seconded.
Any discussion? And I'll agree with Diane, this is a lot easier to vote on this than the budget.
Right.
Roll call, Sarah.
Yes.
Allison.
yes,
Jason.
Aye.
Andy.
Aye.
Bill.
Yes.
Diane.
Yes.
Sarah.
Aye.
Rich.
Aye.
And I, it's unanimous.
Thank you on that. The next one, with Bill votes stepping off the committee because he moved, we need to assign, or you need to assign, a warrant signing representative in his place. Often that person's been a Stockbridge native because the commute is easy, but it doesn't have to be a Stockbridge native.
Could be a retired person, Andy.
Sure, I'll do it.
I nominate Andy.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call. Sarah.
Yes.
Allison.
yes,
Aye.
Andy.
Abstain.
Bill.
Yes.
Diane. Sarah.
Aye.
Rich.
Aye.
And I. It's unanimous with one abstention.
It's a chance to get coffee at Elm Street.
Well, there you go.
I think the potential vote was the actual vote. The rest of it, I think we're in good shape on. So just to be clear, on the back side of the page, we definitely won't have a meeting on the, fifth. And we may not also have a meeting on the twelfth, or we're gonna decide.
We'll decide, the twelfth is tentative, we probably won't have it, but let's just look if there's anything that needs to be voted on at that point.
Okay.
So in the next few days, we'll let you know. So in theory, then the next meeting would be, I had written it down, I'm sorry. The 26th of March. But we'll let you know, and I know some people who enjoy watching this will be disappointed. Just go over subcommittees, just because policy now that this is clear, we need a policy meeting.
Yeah.
And I'll go real quickly, buildings and grounds,
Has been met, yep.
superintendent's evaluation's kind of in limbo right now, or?
You know, Andy's gonna,
Good.
share it and we'll get a time.
Okay, perfect.
And we need another person.
Yes, that's why I asked.
Yeah.
Is there anyone who'd like to be appointed to superintendent's evaluation
And advisory.
and advisor? Okay, we'll continue this discussion. I'm not up to arguing tonight. And since Andy's
I
on
bring
it,
donuts.
since Andy's on, I can't use a retired line. Finance,
Semi-retired.
we already know, do you?
Well, I just wanted to, so we, had a meeting today and we got a whole bunch of projections from our bond advisor for the high school project, and it was super informative, but I almost think we won't do it justice if we do it as a committee report, but we'll get that information out to you guys, but it's very, I understand a lot better now than I did before, that's for sure.
Negotiation subcommittee, we're still negotiating with, Unit C, and, at some point, we'll come back to you with a finished contract to discuss an executive session and vote in public session. Any old or new business before the committee? Seeing none? Unanimous consent, we are adjourned.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.